I'd spend the whole afternoon making sure everything looked effortless. The copper-rimmed champagne flutes caught the glow of our Christmas tree, and the scent of cinnamon and roasted pecans drifted through every corner of my house. I kept brushing a wrinkle from my silk blouse, a pale blush that matched the polish, chipping at the edge of my nails. It was supposed to be a simple family Christmas. No speeches, no confrontations, just gifts, laughter, the squeals of my 9-year-old Dylan. He'd been talking about a PlayStation 5 for months. When my mother swept in late, trailing a flurry of icy air and perfume that smelled like roses and resolve, she carried a single box wrapped in glittery silver paper. PS5, sized. Dylan's eyes widened. He ripped through the paper while the room fell into that hush only children can command. The cardboard flaps gave way, and inside lay nothing but an old, yellowed phone card. The kind you'd buy at a gas station 20 years ago. No console, no note, just the card, curled with age. Dylan blinked. "Grandma?" His voice wavered. My mother smiled, the corners of her lips tight as a bowstring. "A little surprise," she said, as though it were a joke only she understood. A familiar ache tugged beneath my ribs, a memory of long-buried slights I'd sworn I'd forgiven. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket, a name on the screen I hadn't seen in years. The name on my screen, Caroline, my oldest friend, pulled me back years in an instant. And with it came the memory of the night I finally left my mother's house. I was 19, a freshman at a community college an hour outside of Des Moines, already juggling 2 part-time jobs and a course load that felt like a marathon. That winter break, I came home, hopeful for even a hint of pride from her. Instead, I found Mom in the kitchen, arms crossed like a closing door. "You should quit school before you drown in debt," she said, the words sharp enough to slice through the steam of her evening tea. "You're chasing some city dream that'll never feed you or that boy." Dylan was barely 2 then, my reason for everything. I tightened my grip on the chipped counter's edge, fingers trembling though I forced my voice to stay level. "I'm not quitting. I'm building a life. One that isn't stuck in this house." Her laughter was low and bitter. "You'll come crawling back when the rent's due." The air smelled of scorched toast. Somewhere in the next room, Dylan babbled at a cartoon's flickering light. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask why her love always came wrapped in warnings. Instead, I whispered, "You'll see," and felt the weight of the words settle like armor. That night, I packed Dylan's clothes into a duffel bag and drove to Caroline's tiny basement apartment. Her place smelled of fabric softener and coffee, warm, forgiving. She pressed an envelope into my palm, its flap sealed with a tiny gold star sticker she'd saved from her teaching supplies. "For emergencies," she said. "You're braver than you think." Inside lay a handwritten note and a crisp $100 bill. The note read, "This isn't much, but it's a start. One day you'll build a life so bright your son will never doubt his worth, or yours." The lump in my throat threatened to choke me. That 100 wasn't just money. It was the first brick in a future I would build without permission. I looked back once through the frosted glass of Caroline's basement window, the night sky swollen with stars, and felt the cold air cut my cheeks. For the first time, the fear inside me felt like fuel. The first year on my own was a blur of exhaustion and quiet victories. Dylan and I shared a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, whose humming dryers sang us to sleep. Every evening, after tucking him into his crib, I'd spread my textbooks across the tiny kitchenette table and study until the streetlights dimmed. Money was thin as paper. I worked mornings at a diner, smelling of burnt coffee and bacon grease, and nights at a local marketing firm as a receptionist. That second job turned out to be the crack of light I'd been waiting for. One evening, while I was filing invoices, a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair stopped at the desk. "Madison Clark?" she asked, voice carrying the easy authority of someone who'd seen every storm and survived it. "I'm Janet McGraw, creative director. You designed those holiday flyers for the diner, right? I saw them on the community board. They're good. Really good." I stammered a thank you, cheeks warm with surprise. Janet smiled, sliding me her card. When you're ready, come talk to me about an internship. Talent like that shouldn't stay hidden behind a desk. It felt like someone had handed me a key. I clutched her card like it might vanish if I blinked. Days turned into years marked by long nights and quiet hustle. I completed my marketing degree, one online course at a time, while Dylan learned to ride a bike in the laundromat's parking lot. Janet became a mentor, a force of belief when my own wavered. She taught me to pitch ideas, to lead meetings, to trust my own voice. The first time a client approved a campaign I designed from scratch, I sat in my car and cried, not from sadness, but from the sheer relief of proving my mother wrong. That campaign paid enough for Dylan and me to move into a modest townhouse, a place with space for his Lego cities and a porch where I could sip late-night tea. I never bragged. I posted only the safest updates, a snapshot of Dylan's soccer game, a vague mention of work going well. To my mother, I was still the girl who'd never make it in the city. I let her think that. The silence became its own quiet armor. Every time doubt tried to creep back in, during late-night strategy sessions or when Dylan asked why Grandma never visited, I'd pull out Caroline's note, now soft and worn, the gold star still faintly glimmering. Her words, "One day you'll build a life so bright your son will never doubt his worth, or yours," were the fuel that kept me moving. By the time Dylan turned 9, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. My small creative agency had landed national clients, and my savings account finally looked like the future I'd promised him. I'd built the life I once only imagined, and no one in my family had any idea. The living room glittered with fairy lights and the slow sway of a Bing Crosby record. Dylan still held the yellowed phone card, his small fingers trembling like he might break it. The room had fallen into a hush that felt heavier than silence, the kind that makes every breath sound like a confession. Mom perched on the edge of the armchair, ankles crossed. A glass of red wine balanced like a prop in her hand. Her expression, sweetly amused, tightened the knot in my chest. It wasn't just the gift. It was every echo of every conversation where she'd told me I was reaching too far, dreaming too big. Every moment she'd dismissed my worth. "Grandma," Dylan whispered again, his voice a fragile thread. "What's this supposed to be?" "It's a little memory," Mom said lightly, tilting her head as though the explanation were obvious. "That phone card? That was how we used to call long distance before cell phones. A reminder of simpler times." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I felt my pulse rise. The same slow burn I'd fought for years. My phone, still in my pocket from Caroline's earlier call, buzzed again, as if urging me forward. I knelt beside Dylan and took the card from his hand. Its plastic surface was scratched, the numbers nearly rubbed away. I looked at my mother and, for the first time in years, I let the quiet fill me with courage. "You know," I said, my voice calm but steady, "this is almost perfect, because tonight I was going to share a memory too." Her brow creased. "Oh." I rose and crossed to the mantel, where the flicker of the fireplace cast warm light across framed photos. Dylan's first day of kindergarten, my college graduation. I picked up the frame of my diploma. "You remember when you told me college would be a waste of time?" My words floated out softly, but every syllable landed like a stone. "You said I'd come crawling back when the rent was due." I didn't. I turned, meeting her startled eyes. I worked 2 jobs. I finished my degree. And I built something you never believed I could. From my purse, I pulled a thin black folder. Inside were the latest quarterly statements of Clark Creative, the agency I'd founded and grown. I handed the folder to her. "Open it." She hesitated, then flipped through the pages. Numbers leapt off the paper, revenue, contracts, logos of national clients. The wine glass wobbled in her hand. You own this?" "Yes." I held her gaze. "And last month, we cleared over $2 million in annual revenue." The room seemed to inhale. My brother shifted on the sofa. My aunt covered her mouth. Even the tree lights seemed to flicker brighter. Mom's lips parted, but no sound came. Her eyes darted to Dylan, who now watched her with a curiosity far older than his 9 years. All these years, I continued, I let you believe I was barely getting by, because it was easier than fighting. But Dylan deserves to know the truth. He deserves to see that the life you doubted me capable of, I built it anyway. Her shoulders sagged as if a hidden wire had been cut. The queen of subtle jabs suddenly looked small. I set the phone card gently on the coffee table, its faded plastic catching the firelight. Thank you for the reminder, I said quietly. It turns out the only call I ever needed was the one I made to myself the night I left. For a heartbeat, the house was utterly still. Then Dylan slipped his hand into mine. His smile, proud, unshaken, was the only gift I needed. The fire snapped, sending a brief spray of sparks up the chimney. No one moved. The only sound was the faint crackle of the old record as Bing Crosby crooned about a white Christmas. That suddenly felt a lot less innocent. Mom finally set her wineglass down, the base clinking against the coffee table. She cleared her throat. Madison, I didn't know. Her voice, so often edged with steel, wavered like thin ice. I kept my grip on Dylan's small hand, feeling the warmth of his fingers steady me. You didn't want to know, I said softly. For years, you decided who I was. And when I didn't fit that picture, you stopped looking. My brother, Ryan, shifted uncomfortably. Mom, he murmured, but she silenced him with a glance. That old matriarchal instinct still flickering, though weaker now. I never meant to hurt you, she said at last. I thought if I was tough, you'd survive. I breathed in the pine and cinnamon air and let her words settle. I did survive, but I didn't need to be broken first. Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, I saw not the woman who had belittled me, but a tired mother who'd built her own armor and never learned how to take it off. I'm not here to punish you, I said, my voice firm but gentle. But things have to change if we're going to have a real relationship. Not just for me, for Dylan. Mom swallowed hard. What kind of change? First, I said, honesty. No more backhanded remarks about my choices. No more pretending you know what's best when you haven't asked what I need. If you want to be part of Dylan's life, you need to show him respect and show me respect. Every time. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. Second, I continued, for Ryan and for you, chase something you love. Not what you think will keep you safe, but what makes you alive. Because fear disguised as caution is what kept us apart. I won't let it touch Dylan. Ryan looked startled, then thoughtful, as though a door he hadn't noticed had just creaked open. And finally, I said, if you want to spend time with us, you'll have to let go of the idea that love comes with conditions. It doesn't. Not anymore. Silence settled again, but this time it wasn't brittle. It was heavy with possibility. Mom reached out, her hand trembling, and laid it over mine and Dylan's. Her voice barely a whisper. I will try. I squeezed her fingers once. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the first real bridge we'd built in years. The phone card lay between us on the table, a relic of calls never made, a symbol of what we were finally learning to say. The night thinned to a soft, amber quiet. Outside, snowflakes feathered the dark like drifting confetti, each one catching the glow of the porch light before melting into the hush. Dylan had curled against my side, his breathing slow and even, his small chest rising with the rhythm of a world finally at peace. Mom sat across from me, the firelight painting faint gold across her lined face. For once, she didn't reach for another clever remark or brace herself behind that iron posture. Instead, she simply looked at Dylan, really looked, and something in her expression eased, as if she was finally willing to see the boy she could love without agenda. Ryan came back from the kitchen with mugs of cocoa, the scent of chocolate and cinnamon weaving through the air. He handed one to me with a quiet smile, then set another in front of Mom without a word. She accepted it, eyes wet but unashamed. I traced the worn edge of the old phone card with my fingertip. Its surface was rough now, the numbers barely legible, but it no longer felt like an insult. It felt like a full circle, a silent invitation to end the call we'd been avoiding for years. Caroline's note flickered through my mind. One day you'll build a life so bright your son will never doubt his worth, or yours. I had built that life. And tonight, without planning it, I'd opened a door for my family to begin again. Mom cleared her throat, voice almost a whisper. I'm proud of you, Maddie. I should have said it a long time ago. The words settled over me like the first warm breeze of spring. Not everything was healed, but the distance between us no longer felt like a wall, more like a path waiting to be walked. I slipped the phone card into my pocket, its faded plastic cool against my palm, and glanced down at Dylan's peaceful face. Turns out the real gift was never in the box. I thought, the words forming like a final, quiet vow. It was the life I built when no one believed I could. Outside, the snow kept falling. Soft, patient, full of promise.